The Friday Night Takeover, taking over the Friday night, each and every Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Friday Night Takeover. Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark, yeah, man, special night. Really excited. First out of the plate earlier. So I was getting to that. But whatsoever, we've got a lot of other stuff coming up too. We've got invading San Antonio, really popular in because they have but now it's invading San Antonio. We're going to get into that kind of talk to some of our local colleges. Big 12 saying, you know what, we need one more opponent, a non-conference opponent. How does that work? We're going to get into that talk as well. Also have a campus visit. We got our rapid road trip as well. And we've got a very special thing with the high school sports with V. Damone. My alma mater is being represented tonight on a very special edition of the Friday Night Takeover. We have some Friday Night Takeover news to get to at the end of the show. So be sure to listen to all the way to the end of the show. We've got some Friday Night Takeover news as well. Guys, welcome back to Friday night. Orlando, I've asked you on a few times when it comes to this about biking. How's that going, man? I'm always excited to hear if you've gone, more miles, where you're biking to, and everything.
It's actually going pretty good. I've been putting in some miles that I actually need to tune them now. Some of my brakes are going out already.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, I haven't ridden in about 3 days. But last time I rid, I went ahead and rode with some friends. I went ahead and did 25 again. Haven't
Mhm.
hit my goal of 30 yet, but I'm headed there. But looking to get that bike repaired, hopefully this weekend.
Nice, nice, man. Yeah, 30 miles, right? Is that what you're talking about? Is a 30-mile ride?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
The closest I've come to it was 28, so I'm right there, right there.
well, that's 28 more miles than I've gone. So best of luck to you. I knew you'll get to 30 fast. Joe, you're I see you covering the Spurs all the time, all day on Twitter. I get notifications, two shot podcast. This is a highlight, highlight, highlight. Are you getting more and more excited as this bubble season goes on?
That's exciting, especially to see the youth out there getting some run, likes of Quindary Weathers. And Jonas's boy out there, Block a Portal, looked pretty good today. So did Drew Eubanks, so I might have to resend all the hate that I was throwing out for Drew because he's been shelling out, dude, making me shut up. So, and then, Keldon's looked every much the stud as we thought he was going to be. Exciting things right now, in the Spurs, on the Spurs side of things. And, they won today against Utah, and they got another game coming up against the Pelicans. And the rumors are that they're going to sit Zion. So if the Spurs get another win on the road or, at the bubble, things get
Yeah.
interesting.
It could get very interesting because I know they're pretty much like Bill Land, I believe, said on today's show or the Spurs game was that it's like a game seven single game now. So we'll get into that later because I am interested on the whole Spurs thing because we got to figure out if they're mathematically still in it, which they are, but I know they're going to have some help here. Jonas, man, you know, I got to point to something. The opt out was this past week for NFL players, and I noticed five of your boys decided to sit out this season. Does it have any effect on you as far as how they are going to end up this season? They're Cleveland Browns. Yeah.
Our defense, I mean, I'm okay. Cutting a little lost hope at the wide receiver later during the road trip.
Yeah.
We're doing okay.
Yeah, the Dark Empire that is the New England Patriots. We will get into that because that's a hell of a loss that they've suffered when it comes to the opt outs. But I'll tell you one thing: there's one person that didn't opt out and hasn't opt out and will not opt out. And that's the gentleman joining B. Damone tonight on our high school sports segment. Like I said, it's a very special interview. I'm going to put this guy at the top of the list only because he's the starting QB for my alma mater, which is Central Catholic, the greatest high school in all of high school in all of the land. Sorry, guys. I'm going to just put that in stone there. So, no doubt about it. We're going to get into high school sports now. This is B. Damone's interview with one Silas Gomez, former wide receiver from the Buttons. Now he's turned quarterback, and we're expecting some really big things out of Silas. So, hey, Jonas, strike up the band. Let's get into some interviews with B. Damone.
Hey, what it do? It's your boy B Damone from Along the Wire. Hey, what it do? It's your boy B Damone from Along the Wire, and we are back with a high school segment of the Friday Night Takeover. And we have got a special guest who doesn't know that I'm about to give him this title. But when I say this, I do not take this lightly, and it is something that is earned and not given. Many times I say Aiden Anesta Rodriguez at Brandeis is the hardest working player in San Antonio, and I believe he is. But if I break that down into positions, this is the hardest working quarterback in the class of 2022. And he's going up for the position at Central Catholic High School. So I'd like to welcome Silas Gomez to the show from Central Catholic High School. How's it going, Silas?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, man. So let's jump right into it. Like I was saying, your progress from the time I saw you at the end of your freshman year, playing 7-on-7 ball, I've always known you as a quarterback. Last year you played receiver, but this year you're going at quarterback. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what is your workout routine like, and how has the training been for you in focusing on that position?
This off season has been pretty good. So what I mainly do, like from Monday to Friday, is I wake up about like 7:30. I go work out with I got a couple of buddies. We go throw. We work on like agility stuff, like speed and then I work on like my throwing and our routes and whatever. And then after that, I go back home, and then I have another workout with like weights at like around 4. So I go ahead and do that, and I've been just doing 2-a-days about every day throughout quarantine.
Okay, see, so that specialized training is going pretty much 10 workouts a week, five times a week is just like a job, man. Yep. So one of the things, and another reason why I say you're the hardest working quarterback, is you've been a bit of a mercenary on the 7-on-7 squads. You're a part of the South Texas Sting, Texas Smoke with Coach Battles, and also Team Ice up in Dallas with Coach Duffy. So how has it been going up against prime competition everywhere that you're at, and going against those quarterbacks like Jalen Milroe, Caden Salter, and Owens?
It's been pretty good. Like seeing all the competition around Texas, like the best of the best, because it really helps in season. Because whenever we do play those Houston teams with like all these athletes, like I'm not really like stunned. Like I know how it's gonna be. So I think that's really helped, seeing all these big time dudes playing with big time dudes with Texas Smoke, Team Ice, and then South Texas Sting. So I think it's really helped me.
Right, because on your Texas Smoke team, y'all are pretty loaded. Y'all got quarterbacks playing linebackers. So yeah. You're on there with Wyatt Beagle, Lucas Coley, and Cannon Williams. So yeah, that's a heavy rotation.
Yeah, it was pretty good playing with them, because I actually learned a lot, like seeing how they go about things, because they've been in big situations before, and they're going to the next level. So I picked up on little things from them, and I think they really helped me too. We really pushed each other.
Awesome. So speaking on that, getting pushed, your dad and your older brother both play college ball, or your dad played college ball, and your brother's over at UIW right now.
Mhm.
How have they helped you, and how has their success on the field helped, or with their guidance with you?
I think it really helps because it's like a competitive household, so they know what it took to go there. So they're really helping me, and my dad's been really pushing me, and my brother pushes me too. Like I don't think I would be like as good of a player as I am right now if it wasn't for like my brother, because you know how the little brother thing is. Like you always want to be better than your older brother.
Right.
So that's really helped me along the way too.
Awesome. So, hey, man, we thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you have to say for the Central Catholic fans?
I just hope that we have a season. We're working really hard to get to the playoffs and go deep to the playoffs right now. I know a lot of my buddies are putting in work with me. So just wait for the season.
All right, everybody, make sure you follow Silas Gomez on Twitter at GomezSilas2. GomezSilas2. Follow Silas and keep up with Central Catholic. They are on their way up, and they got the quarterback to lead them to the promised land. Thank you for your time. This has been B. Damone on the Friday Night Takeover. Hook 'em, birds up. We're out.
You can get follow B Damone at B Damone for Mo. Quick, let me give a quick shout out real quick for Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram for us here at the Friday Night Takeover. Twitter, Instagram, Sports SA, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Friday Night Takeover. You'll be able to find all of our mugs on. Just click on. You can watch all of our past episodes as well. You know, guys, talking about Silas Gomez. You know, it's the work ethic, and that's something that we've talked about every single week. In these the work ethic. You know, Beatles talked about Lucas Coley. You know, we've talked about Kenny Williams. We've talked, you know, obviously Silas Gomez now. Every single week, it's the same thing, the same type of interviews that we're getting. All these kids are working really, really hard for this upcoming season. That shows the
Right.
passion, shows the love for the sport in itself. So I'm excited for this high school football season to happen. I mean, it's going to be a great season. We've got a lot of great players, a lot of players that people really haven't heard much of, you know, about. But you know, again, guys, with like I'm saying, I'm just going to go back to the work ethic. You know, Joe. You know, when it comes to the high schoolers, I mean, how does it make you feel with the work ethic you're seeing? Because we all know that there's guys at the professional level, even at the collegiate level, that kind of just stroll on by and, you know, don't take it too serious. But seeing these high schoolers, does it make you feel like these guys are even hungrier than those guys in, you know, the NFL and even the NCAA?
Yeah, it does. You know, I mean, the thing is, in high school, you kind of want to prove something to everybody. You know, especially these college scouts. You know, because everybody wants to get picked up by a big school. You know, because that's the
Yeah.
dream. You know, they put in all this work, and the people don't see that. You know, when they have the two-a-days, you know, you wake up early, you're already tired from the practice before. You go in, you practice your butt off, you go home, maybe eat, rest for maybe a couple, you know, couple minutes or something, or you're just probably looking at plays or what have you, just chilling out. Go back again, hit it hard again, and then you're not coming back again till maybe about 5, 6 o'clock. You know, when practice is over, and then you got to give time to the media, and they got to get used to that, because even if you're tired, I mean, if you go into college and you have a game, you still got to address the media, and then when you get to the pro level, it gets even worse. You know, so these are all things that an athlete has to get used to. But I got to say, I was quite impressed with the demeanor of Silas, the intelligence level of this kid, and he just seems so calm all the time. Even if you watch his highlights out there, you know, that are out there on the web, he just seems so calm in the pocket when things are kind of breaking down. This kid is, I think, something that you got to watch. He has the makings of something special. So Silas is definitely somebody you're going to want to take a look at. We're going to want to, like B. Damone told me, you're going to want to save that tape
Yeah, no. And you brought up a really good point because, these guys you would think were not ready to talk to media
Yeah.
personnel at all. I mean, they seem to be really professional, really well, well, I can't even say like well articulate, but I mean as far as their interview skills they're really good. I mean,
Yeah,
these
they're
guys
well
are
versed. They're well versed in.
yeah,
Little
that's
known
what I was gonna.
fact, Rudy. I just found out Judson High School actually has like a media program for these athletes, so they kind of give them the up and up on how to present yourself, how to speak, how to be articulate when you're speaking with members of the media. So that's something, man. To be taught that in your high school years only prepares you for that next level even more. You know?
Yeah, and I actually want to get into real quick to that media discussion because uh you know being that the Silas has been from Central College because you can be from anywhere. I know when I went to Central, with this whole sports program, it's all about being the utmost gentleman you can be, talking to everybody right and being professional and everything. So going to Orlando, I wanted to ask him this question, knowing that we've seen these guys doing these interviews every week with Beat 'em on, you know being and you're probably the youngest one out of all of us here. So, you
I
know,
take that title. Thank you very much.
really, I would figure Orlando was the youngest one.
Nah,
This whole
dude. I haven't even hit 30.
wow. Okay, well, Orlando looks like the youngest one out
That
of all
one I'll
four of
give
us.
you. I'll give you. Orlando has a baby face.
Being that you guys are both young, I have to go for both of y'all actually. um, you know, being that young of an athlete, man, getting the media, how do you think these guys are feeling once they get that call from Beat 'em on, hey, let's do an interview? Does it make them feel like it's that much more, special for that season to get going? Because again, they don't get the kind of attention that they deserve.
Yeah, no, I think it's exciting because they also get to speak for give you a little insight of what's going on, training, what they're doing, maybe what they're not posting like on social media, but also another time to kind of talk up their teammates, coaches, or like give us a little preview of what to expect. Obviously, they're not gonna put out their whole plan out there, but I think something like this is exciting for them. Just to have something to share out there, especially this whole era that we're in right now. So be having the opportunity, knowing that there's other people who are looking forward to high school football, not just the people they surround themselves with. It's got to be exciting for those young kids.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to get Jonas real quick on this. Same thing because out of all four of us, you've got a little more, and you got a little more experience, working in the media, and same thing. Getting these guys to do this interview with Beat and Mo, and even like Silas Gomez. Did you expect anything less than the professional type of interviews that we've been getting from Beat and Mo and the guys?
No. And look, when I was in college, I ran my radio station in college, right? And so I introduced a lot of young students to the air, and the first time that you put your opinions out there, and the first time that you put your voice out there, and you own it, right? It's nerve-wracking to get in front of a microphone for the first time, and same thing when you're being interviewed, and you're being interviewed on camera. It's for a show, and that other people are going to see this, but also for the position that these guys are in, Gomez here, Silas, he's a very young kid, but he knows that this is going to be maybe potentially the start of some interviews that he's going to continue to get down the line. You move into starting quarterback in San Antonio, Texas. You're going to be speaking to the media. You step out of that wide receiver room and you step on the varsity field. This is kind of like that introduction, and already, he handles himself very well spoken, like you said, and this is the first of many to come.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm expecting big things from Silas. Like I said, his work ethic, as Beedemo was saying, is just unheralded. I mean, it's perfect, and he's got that work ethic that you really need to have as a starting QB for any high school in San Antonio. He's going to be a great leader. I have no doubt about that at all.
He's already
So we're
put my
expecting
quarantine to shame. You know, this guy's out here doing 2 days, working 5, 6, 7 days a week. You know, on his craft, on his body, and I'm like, you know, dude, when do you Netflix and chill? And you can tell that that's the furthest thing from his mind, which is why, again, when you talk about the position of quarterback in the state of Texas, that's why they're there, because they do put in that extra time that nobody else is willing to do, or other people, or not nobody else, but other people aren't willing to do. And to get that label of hardest working guy in the city, that says a lot. We got a lot of high
Yeah.
schools here. We got a lot of top talent here, and at the sophomore level, he's already got that. So imagine where he's going to go from here. Put the work
Yeah, and
in,
that
you're
key
going to get
word,
the
the key
results
thing he
out.
said was he's a sophomore.
Right.
I mean, to be in this position
We
at
talked
such
to a
an
lot of
early
seniors.
age. Yeah. To be in this position at such an early age is nothing but high expectations for Silas Gomez. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting, high expectations from Silas, and we've also got some high expectations from the Big 12, because that's what we're going to get into here as soon as we get back from this commercial break. Does UTSA play a Big 12 team? And if they do, who's it going to be? Come back with us right here on the Friday Night Takeover. Rudy Campos Jr., Orlando Torres, Jonas Clark, Joe Garcia. We'll be back in just a minute. The Friday Night Takeover, Rudy Campos Jr., Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark, again, taking over your Friday nights every single Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. We are back, and, we just got done talking about Silas Gomez, Central Catholic quarterback, the Central Catholic, the greatest high school in San Antonio history and across all lands. So, yeah, we just got off talking about Silas Gomez, how, the expectations for him is going to be huge, and the hardest worker in high school football, according to B. Damone. And hard work is what pays off because we've seen UTSA work hard to, get their status up, get their, their program going. They had a game coming up this season against LSU. Obviously, due to COVID and due to everything going on, the pandemic, that game's been canceled. SEC said we're just having conference games, no non-conference games. They lose out on a $1.4 million paycheck. Does hurt the program a lot, but where it does help somewhat is the Big 12 recently said, hey, we will allow for one conference game to happen this football season. Well, as soon as that, that announcement was made, UTSA should have been on the phone with one team and one team only, and that is the Fighting Texas Longhorns up in Austin. Why? Because they are one program for sure in the Big 12 that can cover that $1 million payday for UTSA. So I've heard, people say before that, hey, UTSA against Texas wouldn't be good for Texas because there's that possibility Texas could lose. But how realistic is it for Texas? Because we're not saying UTSA, they beat Baylor, but let's not say Baylor's, the cream de la creme, in the Big 12. When it comes to Texas, I know Texas has struggled, heavy-mindedly recently in the past few years. What is the chances of UTSA going to Texas if that game does happen and beating the Longhorns? I'm going to start with, Joe on this one. Joe, is it really a threat for the Longhorns if UTSA plays? Now, remember, the past couple of UTSA teams haven't been great at all. But, of course, with, new head coach Jeff Traylor there, it's going to be turned around. But will it be turned around, quick enough to where they can upset Texas?
I don't think they're going to be a threat, Rudy. I'm just going to be honest with you. I've covered the UTSA games out there at the Alamo Dome and watched them play. I got to say, one of the guys who's always impressed me has always been Sincere McCormick, but just looking at what's happened in the past, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get used to the new coaching style, the new format, plays out there being called. One of the biggest things or biggest issues for UTSA football has always been their defense, so that's going to be interesting to see how that's going to pan out. Can it match up against the Longhorns defense and not only that, but their offense as well? That's going to be a tough test for UTSA. While I expect them to remain competitive, I don't expect them to be able to get the upset. I'm just keeping it real.
No,
I don't know.
We totally get that, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not expecting a big upset.
No, I totally understand that, completely, man. Because, UTSA hasn't had the best product out there. Let's be honest. We're not sugarcoating anything here. We're not saying, oh, it's just a struggle. No, I mean, when we say it's a struggle, we're not saying it with a smile.
Jeff
saying
Traylor
it as
era,
serious
dude.
as we can.
Jeff Traylor.
What was that?
I said Jeff Traylor era. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new
Birds
era.
up.
I'm actually excited about the Jeff Traylor era going on now. Orlando, coming to you, man, with the possibility that UTSA could be playing the Longhorns. We heard Joe say it. I've even kind of said it too. It's not a probability that they would beat Texas, but there are a few people out there that feel that this would be a trap game for Texas, make them look bad. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm with Joe. I was, right there in the Alamo Dome with them. And, I do like Sincere McCormick, for some of those guys that they got coming in their second and third years with UTSA. But, under a new head coach, I feel like this team's still kind of trying to figure out their identity, especially as they get to do, with the new head coach, some of these new players. So while that will be exciting to watch locally, UTSA head up 35 to face Texas, I don't think there's any way that UTSA is, catching UT off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in agreement. There might be one person here that feels that. Uh,
I don't know
Let's
who that could be.
go.
I have no idea who that is.
that feels UTSA has that chance. So I'm gonna give that one person his time to shine. Jonas, you really how do you feel about UTSA going into Texas and upsetting the mighty Longhorns of Texas? I mean, you're gonna be the most positive person when it comes to this on this show. So I'm giving you your platform here.
All right, look, I'm not a college football expert, but I feel like I have a good grasp on teams going in the right direction. And UTSA, I understand that they've dealt with a little bit of a talent lapse recently. I mean, after we lost, of course, I'm blanking right now. Marcus Davenport to the NFL, which was also the Dalton Strom era. Or Dalton Sturm. And I think that right now you're in a very sweet spot. We've seen a lot of guys coming back home this off season and this summer in terms of transferring back to San Antonio to play for the UTSA Roadrunners. And Texas, they're kind of on their heels. I know a lot after living in Austin for 3 years. I know a lot of people who are very, 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 very high on their Longhorns still. And that's what a fan does. You should, even as an alumnus, you should constantly believe. But I think that there's a reason for UTSA to kind of believe that as an underdog, they can get theirs too. LSU would have been a very, very difficult matchup. So if you can land Texas now, that's a big, big difference in terms of opponent difficulty. And that might be just enough for those kids to go out there and say, you know what? I think we got this one. And I understand we got destroyed by Army last year, UTSA, and I say we, I'm a BGSU alum, but I like the smaller sister school that UTSA kind of has that feel when you're just right down the road from Texas, who gets all the glory. And if there's a time for an upset, look, this is the summer to do it because everybody's kind of on a level playing field from the conditioning side of things. Because nobody can get out there and do a full practice and implement their playbooks. Now, Texas would have an advantage for having Sam Ellinger coming back, and a lot of real weapons over there. But why not? That's my whole question. Why not? Let's go ahead and get an upset. UTSA, the school would wear that like a badge of honor for the next 100 years to say, even if you say you got them once, because that impacts the recruiting pool locally too. And I think that's something that you wear kind of like an Appalachian State. Remember when they took down Michigan like 10 years ago? They still run that all the time. And again, being from Ohio, the Buckeye Nation still gives Michigan hell for that constantly. Hey, remember the time you guys lost to Appalachian State? You can go ahead and exit stage left, please. You don't belong in this conversation. And that would be kind of what University of Texas San Antonio knows they would have that opportunity to go ahead and do that to Big Brother Texas, and I'm here for it.
But we're talking Appalachian State beating Michigan. For college basketball guys, we're talking Chaminade beating Villanova. I mean, you've got major upsets that have happened in sports history. Is it that big of an upset for UTSA to beat a struggling Texas, school? I mean,
and that's why I think it's. I don't think it is. I don't think it's that big of an upset, which is why I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility to go out there and do it.
Yeah, I get that. I just think that, I think if you're looking at both programs side to side, they both have struggled these past few seasons, and you're going to get the better players at Texas at this point. So I would give him the edge as far as, Texas beating UTSA. Would it surprise me if UTSA beat Texas? No, it wouldn't surprise me. Ooh. I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me. I don't expect it to happen if they do play. But again, Texas is vulnerable. They're a very vulnerable football program right now.
Mhm.
UTSA is a very vulnerable football program as well. I mean, if you're talking about UTSA versus Texas and UTSA versus LSU, I would definitely like to see, honestly, I would like to see them against LSU just because it's, to me, it's a bigger stage. When you play Texas right now, it's a bigger stage in Texas. But when you're going to play LSU, it's the national stage for you. It's that big picture. So that's why I would prefer to see that game. It's not going to happen this year. Probably would maybe happen next year if they get it scheduled again. But Texas would be that one opponent that can give UTSA that payday they're looking for, which is probably a million or upwards of a million. I don't see them playing, a team like OU or OSU or anybody like that. Baylor definitely does not want to see UTSA again, at least not for a while. So to me, it makes sense to get the Texas UTSA thing going for that one non-conference game. Again, would not surprise me at all if UTSA won, but I do give the edge to the Longhorns. And speaking of edges, man, sports in season. Again, a segment. If you'd like to sponsor a segment here on Sports on Friday Night Takeover, the Sports in Season segment, get in contact with us. You can find us on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at Poodle Sports SA, Facebook and YouTube. Search Friday Night Takeover. SAFC, man. They won last weekend over the Austin Bolt 4-2. 3 points that they ended up getting gave SAFC 10 points, and they're a top Group D. As we seen this SAFC turn that corner where at the beginning of the season we were a little bit here, and a lot of Twitter universe out there, San Antonio Twitter universe, was really bashing and giving SAFC a hard time. Have we seen those struggles gone? I mean, Orlando, what are you seeing from SAFC? Are we really getting that team that we really want?
Uh, they've had some good moments. I don't know if we've had that team yet that we really want. I still feel like it's a little early on. And with the games being so spread out, it's kind of easier to kind of emotionally stick with what happened during that week until the next game arrives. But it's looking good so far. We wanted more scoring. We mentioned that next week we got 4 goals in one game. So I feel like as each week goes by, these they're starting to figure the chemistry is getting a lot better on the field. They're still pretty good defensively. They're coming along offensively. They've been better defensively though, rather than offensively. But I don't know if we're still there yet, but it's looking pretty good so far. And going into tomorrow's games, I mean, I'm excited to see how long they could keep up this momentum.
Yeah, no, I mean the momentum's good for SAFC. I'm hoping they do really keep this momentum up. Joe, how are you feeling about the SAFC? I mean, again, Orlando's saying that we're not quite there yet. Me, I'm kind of leaning with Orlando. We're not just there yet. We're getting there, but how close do you think we are?
I think every game, that they go out there and they're competing, they're getting a step closer. Look, let's go back and look at everything that happened in the prior seasons. I think that's what SAFC fans are particularly looking at. The intangibles. Hey, you look good coming in. You go on a win streak. You win 2 in a row, 3 in a row, and then you just drop some. Some games that were very winnable. And you just drop them. There goes my neighbor. Well, you go drop some games, and then it takes you out of contention. Right when you were in the heat of making a push to really going, into the playoffs and whatnot. And I think that's what fans are kind of on the fence about. Why they like a lot of the things that they're seeing out of SAFC. To start the season, it was disappointing. How they lost that game in the final minute. So then they come back and redeem themselves, and they're putting together a nice little win streak there. But they're going to have another a tough opponent here coming up. They're going to be playing the OKC Energy tomorrow at 7:00. So let's see how they perform. The only way that they're going to really show the fans something is by going out there and continue winning. Continue to get better. Out there, and that's really what it boils down to. The growth. And I think that the fans, particularly that have been following this team, they're excited about a lot of things about this team this season, but they're afraid, I think, to get really excited because of the letdown. You know, that's the thing. It's kind of like Spurs basketball already. You want to get excited, but then you're like, okay, this has
Yeah,
only
you
been a
got-
couple games. What's the rest of the season going to look like? You know, so that
Yeah.
I believe everybody right now has a wait and see attitude. You know,
Gotcha. Before we forget, Soli was named to USL Team of the Week. Midfielder Christian Pirano was featured by the USL. You know, they've got the players there. Obviously, they've got the players for SAFC to succeed. I really think there's something is bubbling there. It's boiling there down at Toyota Field for SAFC. Before I move on to the chocolates, because the chocolates is going to be a really small update because they gave us a little bit of hope, and
Womp womp.
just like the just like some certain teams in our history have given us hope, they failed us too. But before I get to the chocolates, real quick, Jonas on SAFC, same thing for you, man, because I'm really curious on this. I feel like we're right there, like we're saying we're right there. We're not quite there, but we're there. Do you feel like the players on SAFC right now are they're right there getting ready to make that extra push for SAFC? Because I feel this team, and this is me because I haven't really followed them way too much, but I feel this team is one of the better teams we've ever had on SAFC's squad.
I don't know about historically. In full exposure, I've been in San Antonio for 2 years now, and this is the first year that I've really gotten to the point where I understand soccer. I've played a lot of FIFA. I've watched a lot of Euro, the Premier League, and so I'm really, and that's where I'm. If you can tell, I'm kind of like a new kid excitement with San Antonio FC because I finally understand exactly what's going on out there. So. I can't speak for historically, but if you look at the matchups as of what's going on right now across the entire USL right now, remember this is a shortened season, so only 16 games, and we're already we're only 5 matches or 4 matches played through because we had that one canceled back with Rio Grande Valley that we had to move up. But if you look at the goals scored to this point, San Antonio's only scored 7 goals. Now our defense has been pretty stout, which is why they've got a 3-1, a 3 wins and 1 draw to this point, and why we've got 10 points. But when you look at what the other top teams across the USL, and I don't want to look too far ahead, guys, but other group leading teams have a little bit more potent of an offense, and there's even a second place team up there, Phoenix, has 14 goals on the year. Like, what? So I think that they're starting to find their rhythm, and that's the biggest thing with sports kind of in general right now, is we've seen that it takes a while. If you watch baseball, you know that hitters are taking a while to find their rhythm, and pitchers, were able to just continue to throw at a empty wall and find their, keep their velocity up and stuff like that. But basketball, same thing. We saw where it's taken them some time to get back in kind of conditioned shape, and now we're starting to see what we expect to see. And I think that we're starting to come to that point with soccer as well, especially with our SAFC. And I think that they have a real chance this weekend to again create some more space there in Group D against Oklahoma City.
Yeah, for sure. We're hoping that they do continue to extend the lead over there in Group D because they've been playing really well lately. They've been playing really, really well. So we'll see how they do against their next match. And one thing that we won't see is the Chanclas anymore for this season. Yes, your San Antonio Flying Chanclas made the playoffs. They felt kind of cute. They decided to mess around and make the playoffs. And they actually had help because I believe the other team came down with a positive test or something. So they were pretty much eliminated from it. So they did make the playoffs. And it was about as brief as a fart as anything when it came to the Chanclas in the playoffs. They were swept 0-2. So just for what we saw from the Chanclas, the TCL, I'm not getting into mask talk and having 6 people around me, group. I'm gonna call it group gate that Jonas likes to get into when it comes to the Chanclas. But from seeing our first experience in the TCL with this team and the actual league. Was it really enjoyable for you guys? It brought a few games to San Antonio. Personally, I liked it. We got to see some players that, collegiate players that you may see, you may not see. More than likely, you probably won't see a lot of these guys make it to the MLB level. So, yeah, it was kind of like just like collegiate baseball, just, a couple of guys getting together, playing ball for a while, kind of some of the stuff you see over at some of the fields in town. But, I'm going to go, Jonas, real quick. As far as the Chocolates go, man, was it just decent enough just to get some baseball in San Antonio and see it being played?
Outside of the COVID petri dish, yes. The on field product was great, and it was awesome to be able to watch a Facebook live stream. Even if I got upset at the fans, and enjoy some good baseball. And these kids are all quality because they're local for the most part, local collegiate athletes. Is where this team comes from, and some guys maybe coming in from out of state, but that's because they're from the region and then went to go play college ball elsewhere. And it was really cool to see these guys together. And next year when the TCL comes back around, I'll probably be following. I don't know that it will be like a Chanclas kind of brand like we had this year. I think that was a special COVID quarantine kind of deal. But TCL, quality product overall. So I'm glad they were here, and I'm glad we got to at least have something to watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. I enjoyed it. I really did, But again, outside of, like you said, the petri dish that is the COVID stuff going on, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I just wish it would have lasted a little bit longer. Orlando, real quick, man, give me your thoughts on the Chancla season.
Yeah, I thought it was good for what it was. Definitely excitement. I didn't get to catch too many of the Chocolates games, but I do follow them in social media and was able to catch, some of their hits and highlights throughout the season. A horrible way to end, but it was good that that they have a good amount of support, especially baseball here in San Antonio. So while it wasn't the perfect way to go out for whatever was going on right now, I thought it was still exciting, still to have that Chanclas baseball. But I don't know what you were saying if they are coming back with the Chocolates, but I'm gonna give me one of those Chocolates hats because those colors and those logos are pretty sweet. So I'm definitely invested in getting some Chocolates gear going forward.
Yeah, I got a Chocolates hat, so I'm good on that. But I do want to get a jersey for sure. So, real quick, Joe, before we go to a commercial break, real quick, again, Chancla season. How did you feel about it going on? I know it was disappointing. We got in the playoffs, we were happy, and then it's like we got to the park and it was closed, kind of like National Lampoon's Vacation. So
Wally World was closed, Rudy.
Wally World is closed. The Moose should have told you outside.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know how that scene played out. They still got in the park. Much like the Chanclas, they still got into the playoffs, but they just didn't perform. I think it was an underwhelming season, if I have to keep it real, by the Flying Chanclas. We got excited. We had this hope that, hey, the Texas Collegiate League, bringing in these great players that, like you stated, Rudy, not going to have maybe a career in MLB in baseball, but at least they can perform here and still show, that they can play at a high level. And they look great, in the beginning, the season, they were putting together wins. And, I mean, they had really good at-bats, the bats were swinging. They were putting up those points. And then all of a sudden, the wheels kind of came off a little bit and they hit a skid at the wrong time. But then the Round Rock Harrymen helped us out, and kind of by default, we got into the playoffs. Yeah. But then RGV, the Bombers, they really came to play, and I think they had been our Achilles heel most of the season. It seems like they just had the Chanclas number, and sure enough, in the playoffs, they met up, and unfortunately, the better team won, and RGV advances. So it's kind of disappointing, yes, but it's exciting at the same time because we did get to see, the Flying Chanclas play at Wolf Stadium. There was Missions baseball, so to speak, even though it was the Flying Chanclas, which we needed some of this, especially right now during the pandemic, during the COVID-19, hitting so hard. It was good to see baseball. It was good to see the stream that they had on there. And yes, Jonas was quick to point out the social distancing aspect of things, or lack thereof. But other than that, I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I just wish they would have advanced further.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. We all enjoyed it. We all definitely did enjoy it. So we're hoping that we get to see it. Let me give you a quick 1 second read down here. The Houston Fury canceled month of August, putting local eyes on the September's grappling events chances. So we'll get into that probably here with Orlando for a little bit here in the second part of the hour. And a mention of USBC bowling because I am a bowler here in San Antonio, and I was bowler pretty much all around the country traveling to tournaments and stuff. They canceled the championships this past season. It broke a lot of streaks. That's something that we would probably get into the second hour. If not, I'll definitely make a note about that here for everybody on the Friday night takeover because bowling is a sport. I don't care what y'all say. This is the Friday night takeover. Jonas Clark, Joe Garcia, Orlando Torres, Rudy Campos Jr. We'll be right back. The Friday night takeover. Rudy Campos Jr., Jonas Clark, Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia. Coming to you every Friday night from 6 to 8 p.m. We are taking over every single Friday night with you guys. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Don't forget our Twitter poll. It's getting ready to close here. Go to our Twitter page. It's at Poodle Sports SA. Be sure to get your answers in for the Twitter poll that we have going on. We will give you all those. We'll give you the results here later on in the show in hour two. So again, welcome back. At the beginning of the show, we talked about esports and how it's going to be not affecting, but it's going to be invading our city here locally, and it's going to be at a college that we've got here, one of the universities. Esport, in general, it's not extreme sports, so it's not like bull riding or rock climbing or anything like that. Esports is electronic gaming, basically. So those of y'all that do play a lot of games, you have the NBA 2K League, which is really popular. I always followed the Mortal Kombat tournaments that go on because I'm a big Mortal Kombat guy. They have a lot of Madden stuff going on. I don't think that's exactly the kind of e-gaming that we're talking about here. But if it is, it is. I will gladly do a Mortal Kombat tournament. I suck at the current game, but you get me behind, Mortal Kombat 1 or 2, and I can definitely hold my own on those two, being how old that I am. But I'm going to get real quick. Let me go into Orlando here because the university that is actually going to start doing e-gaming as far as tournaments, competition, everything is going to be St. Mary's University. I would have never expected St. Mary's to be the first university here to actually start doing all this stuff. I actually had my money, probably like San Antonio College or one of the other schools here, but not like St. Mary's. So it's kind of a surprise for me. Orlando, as far as bringing e-gaming into the limelight here in San Antonio, the potential for it can be very, very big. You believe?
Oh yeah, and I think St. Mary's just made the first step. I think going to SAC, I would always see flyers around. Little tournaments, e-gaming stuff going on. I mean, it wasn't provided by the school, but just students kind of getting together. I imagine all the other universities or campuses around town or in Texas in general are doing something similar. So what St. Mary's having an actual program, a scholarship program with the esports department, I think it's huge. And I just seen other campuses and universities following suit. But this is going to be huge regardless because video games has always been a huge part of not just students but people in general. So with people offering that, I think it just brings a little bit more to the table for these students who are already in that field or looking to study in that field to start with.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder too, because if you're going to start it at the university level here in San Antonio, then it's going to start trickling down to the high school level. So we're potentially going to start seeing, high schools having esport competitions, and then obviously, St. Mary's, we've got UIW, Our Lady of the Lake, a lot of these other universities are probably going to end up going that route, which means more scholarship potential for these guys. Because, if I'm not mistaken, Jonas, if I'm not mistaken, you've got, isn't there some gamers out there that are multimillionaires? That I've looked up a couple, and because of their streams and competitions that they do, I know they make some stupid money. That's for sure. Especially in the NBA 2K league, I know those guys can make some stupid money. But the potential there to actually make this a career, when back in the day, mom and dad were saying, "Don't play games all day. You're not gonna go anywhere in life by playing a game." Well, mom and dad, I'm making 10 times what y'all are combined doing this. So, you know, is that potential legit to know that, hey, going through the university, playing there, becoming a professional e-gamer, how likely is that?
Well, it doesn't happen to everybody, right? There are your six-figure guys. There is professional, gaming where kids get picked out of high school and they get brought on to a professional team, and there's all that to go along with it. But specifically here for St. Mary's, this is an opportunity for kids to earn scholarships, and that's what the collegiate, and there's all different kinds. I had the opportunity, to speak to Caitlin Tenienta, and she is the head coach, the first head coach of the St. Mary's University Rattlers esports program. They are focusing on four specific games right now, or four specific leagues, and those are League of Legends, Overwatch, Fortnite, and Rainbow Six Siege. And she did say they are looking at going into Call of Duty when in the spring semester when that league takes off. And there's not, like, when you think of collegiate sports, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to think of just like NCAA, and they sanction everything. Well, the NCAA doesn't quite have their hand in the esports world, and so all these it's kind of run by tournaments at the collegiate level. So colleges kind of have boards, where it's Overwatch, and they kind of just have, standards and how they have their tournaments set up across the country, and they all, for the most part, start regionally based. So St. Mary's is going to go up against other Texas universities, and they're going to play kind of in a play-in tournament. Think about the NBA bubble in a sense, right? So they're going to play a bubble version of just seeding games. So or even like look at the soccer, like USL, where you get split into groups, and then you play your group, and you hope to win from your group, and then therefore advance into the playoff bracket, and then go on to the finals. And that's the national gaming side, the national gaming side of things. So you could see, St. Mary's, their teams do, advance out of that. Then you could see, representation on the national level. Now, one of the questions I had for Caitlin was, to be on the team, do you have to be able to play all four games? Or is it like a track meet where everybody kind of has their specialty, or what does that look like? And, because I've watched the 2K League, and I've been a part of some Super Smash Brothers tournaments and stuff like that, but nothing on this level, right? And so it's really one of those things where they might try to knock out the same game, all teams for the same for the different games in the same day, but typically it's going to be all managed. You're going to play, like, the Fortnite is going to play in the Fortnite specific sanctioned tournament, And at the end of this it's all for scholarship money. And so that's how they even kind of piece together. We were talking earlier about, universities on the football side of things trying to fill their schedule. Well, as a head coach, she had her and her, her team have the opportunity to look at which tournaments they enter, and that's based on the scholarship pool. You don't want to waste your time in a tournament that's not going to give you a lot of scholarship money back. And they look at factors from forfeit rates and what's the how good are these other are the teams that are going to be they'd be going up against and stuff like that. So you can kind of piece that together. But there are, like, Madden is technically an esport, Rudy. Like, technically it really is, and there are universities that have a Madden team, and they they'll seed from within, and then take that onto a regional level and then potentially even a national level, not just the 1v1 Madden tournaments. And that's where you get into, like, even Rainbow Six. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. That's professional gaming now. That's esports. And what's really special about what's going on out at St. Mary's is they're the first ones to also have a hub for this. Other universities have clubs, and in fact, UTSA has a Rainbow Six team that Caitlin said you could really look for them to end up pairing up against as their seasons get started. Tryouts are still going on. They did fill 6 of their spots in each game: Overwatch, League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and then Fortnite. They each have 6 players involved per team, so they're still looking for players. They did some tryouts over the summer, but the Fortnite League, I believe it is, doesn't start until the spring. I'll double check my notes, but I'm pretty sure that one doesn't start till the spring. Other contests are looking to start here as early as September and October. And scholarship opportunities. I don't know about you. I know, Orlando, you're in school, man. School ain't cheap. I went for 6 years. It's not cheap, and I was able to get a year paid for. Every little bit helps. And, if this was around 7-8 years ago when I was finishing off my college education, I definitely would have, maybe tried to grind a little bit harder on the keyboard.
Yeah, no, I hear you completely, man. It seems like the potential's there for huge stuff when it comes to esports, especially during this whole pandemic thing that we're going through. Esports is what can actually keep everything going. I mean, if you think about it, you talked about Madden, you talked about, hell, I love MLB The Show. Can you make that into, a type of NBA 2K type league? Hell yeah, you can. You can do that for any sport. So the potential for it to be huge is there, because not only do you add esports to society and actually open it up to everything, what does that do for Vegas? It keeps Vegas alive too, because now you can go, to Vegas and bet on esports. You can do that. I mean, you can actually do that now.
I was going to say, you can definitely do that now.
You can do that now, but, legally through Vegas, you can actually go get it done. I mean, there's so much potential just for that alone. I do want to get to Joe real quick. As far as Joe goes, hey Joe, the esports in general, again, is it something that could potentially turn into something huge? Because we're seeing these salaries for esport players for playing a game kind of not get ridiculous, but they're getting up there. So, I mean, St. Mary's offering esports as one of their athletic part of the athletic program. That's got a lot of potential for guys to actually say, you know what, instead of me sitting on the couch, I can actually go to college and do this.
Yeah, well, let me tell you one thing, some insight here. For the record, esports, it's been a growing industry for quite some time already. It's a giant industry. It's, estimated to be somewhere in the neighborhood, I guess, worth, as far as what its worth is, in the ballpark of $1.8 billion by 2022. And it's attracting one of the largest audiences here on the planet, and it keeps on growing. Already over 600 million people have gravitated towards esports and e-gaming, and I believe Forbes was reporting too that esports pro athletes have been growing more than 40% annually ever since 1998. Just to let you know that this is an industry that just came on overnight. It's been around for quite some time. I just think it's growing more in popularity over
Yeah.
the over the last couple of years, and more recently, I think it's become a lot more popular because we've even seen NASCAR drivers, pro drivers, using these simulators, and they've been showing simulations of them driving actual cars on ESPN, and it looks, the graphics look realistic. You would think just by a quick glance that you're actually watching a real vehicle until you realize, oh, it's a guy in the simulator driving the car, So this is something that is advancing as far as the technology. As the technology advances, it seems like the skill set of said gamers advance as well. They're growing with the technology. So that's something that is interesting to see as well. But yeah, it's been around for quite some time. It's not going away anytime soon. And it's a new era for these esports, and e-gaming. These athletes are multimillionaires, and they're very young, and they're making bank not only off of endorsements and the teams that they're with, but also, on Twitch. It's huge right now that they're making money off of their merchandise. Fans go in, just throw cash at these kids. And on a given stream, they can, if it's very popular, they can walk away with a couple grand per stream, and that's not including the revenue they get off of ads and whatnot. So, can you imagine to be that young and to be banking that much money? It's amazing, dude.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the money, the money is going like crazy, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
And if there's
You
a way
know,
to if there's a way to pay for school, or even to help it out a little bit, these guys aren't going to go out and make they're not going to make the six figures at St. Mary's University, on their esports team, but the opportunity to not only earn towards a scholarship, but and represent your school, represent your community, but it also, when you look at esports overall, it's not what people might think of. When you kind of think of computer gaming or something, you might think of that Cartman gif, right, from when he was playing World of Warcraft and he didn't move and he's yelling at mom for snacks and stuff like that. And that's far from what it really is. This is a team sport. It's all about communication. And when I talked with Caitlin about the kinds of players, because she puts together a team, in tryouts, they're looking for people to fit on a team to, reach the objectives. And, tell me if you guys recognize, some of these character traits that she looks for, guys. She looks for, individuals who have a good attitude, can communicate with their team effectively, whether and whether they have a different way of communicating or not, whether it's by keyboard or whether it's using a headset or whatever. They're willing to be flexible and adapt and fit their role on the team. They can give and receive feedback, and just how necessary it is for them to be vocal and share what they learn about their opponents and their research and stuff like that. It sounds like another. What she's looking for sounds like the requirements for another coach here in town, that everybody might be a little bit more familiar with, and one Greg Popovich, right? That when I heard her mentioning, some of these attributes, it's like, wow, so you're kind of looking for what we would call a Spurs player, right? That's what we say when when the organization says, they're looking for a Spur. A lot of those things check the list. How good of you are a person? How's your attitude in the game? When you're down 15, are you still mentally checked in, or do you check out and get throw your mouthpiece and stuff like that? These are all things that they look at, and these are things that she looks at as she continues to build her team out there. The first collegiate team here in San Antonio to represent a university beyond just a club.
Yeah, and I've heard that Greg Popovich is actually a pretty good coach. I'm just throwing that out there. I think he's a pretty good coach. So that'd be good. That'd be a good person to follow when it comes to getting your players ready for the esports. So I know there's more to talk about esports here, but we'll definitely probably get into that next week, a little bit more into esports, because it's an interesting topic. Again,
Most
you're going
definitely.
from spending $5 in the game room to actually making 5,000-6,000 at home on the couch eating Lay's potato chips, which is not a sponsor, and Coca-Cola products, which is not a sponsor.
It's come a long
So,
way
yeah,
since Diversion's
definitely there's
game room,
something-
Rudy.
Diversion's game room. Oh my God, yeah. I'm an old fart, man, calling about Diversion's game rooms. So yeah, we'll get into more esports talk here probably next week here. This is the Friday Night Takeover. Rudy Campos and your Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark. We just took over your first hour. We are running a little bit late, but we're coming back here with the second hour where we've got some Spurs talk, and we also go into campus visit and the rapid road trip. Don't forget, the end of the show, we have some Friday Night Takeover news for you guys. So we'll be back here to take over your second hour. Also, that poll is ending now. When we come back, we'll get you the poll results as well. Over. The Friday Night Takeover. We just took over hour one. We're taking over your second hour as we do every Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. This is the Friday Night Takeover. Rudy Campos Jr., Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark. We got into some e-gaming. That was actually pretty cool. I'm looking. Rapid road trip, NFL talk, U.S. Open talk. You know, we're talking Rafael Nadal. We're talking Tiger Woods. We're talking everything in the MLB. Field of Dream games is. I was actually hoping to get that underway as well. All that's coming in hour two. Plus, at the end of the show, we've got a special announcement on the Friday Night Takeover. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But coming back, man, campus visit. We're going to start off real quick. Texas State and SMU, they're still set to play this season. You know, Orlando, going to ask you on that one real quick because after that, it's Trinity Volleyball. We got some volleyball talk in campus visit this week, but a really important one is Texas State and SMU set to play a season. That's a game that I know a lot of people had circled. How much of an important game is that for both programs?
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially with that game not falling apart, sticking through. You kind of get that traditional game. I think it's big. It kind of for both conferences to play that. I think it's still exciting for them, and definitely looking forward to that. But for them not to scramble and kind of find replacement teams for that, or just not have that game at all this year. However, they're going to figure that out. I think it's very big for both programs.
Yeah, it is big. You know, it's really good that game did stay together. You know, hey, Joe, like I said, we got volleyball mentioned here in campus visit. I was not expecting volleyball to come up, but I'm glad it did because, you know, basically what we're seeing is with Trinity Volleyball here, they're still practicing, you know, hoping that their season still goes, even if it's a shortened season as well. You know, again, we're seeing certain programs. We did find out that Trinity football was canceled for the season. Whereas we see more of this, you know, pandemic go on, and we see more NCAA, you know, schools basically saying, we're going to give it a shot. We're going to try this. We're going to do that. One real quick note as far as campus visit. Recently, the NCAA men's basketball programs, for all of men's basketball, stated they were going to try a bubble out too, probably for their conferences. So, excuse me. So, we're seeing the NCAA really getting on the ball, really trying to see how they can figure all this out to get NCAA sports going, to get their athletes on the court, on the field somehow. Trinity volleyball is one of those things. You know, the thing that we want to know with Trinity volleyball, as well as other stuff too, the eligibility part. For the NCAA decision to grant another year of eligibility athletes that don't get to complete 50% of their season, that includes for Trinity volleyball as well. I mean, it's every sport in general. But first off, let me get to the volleyball part. How important is it for Trinity to at least get one part of the athletic program going?
Yeah, I think it means a lot to, let's say, just put it like this, to the kids, going out there and, because a lot of them are going to enter their senior years, so they want to have that one last hurrah, to go out there and be able to compete with their teammates, So it's very important for them, especially because, let's face it, a lot of them, this might be it for them because they go on, get degrees and, life happens. So they're going to be, busy working, starting families, getting married. So this would be it for their professional sports careers, while others will go on and maybe get, picked up and become pros. But I like the fact that one of the telling things about Trinity is they're going to allow the players to practice together this coming spring, and they're going to allow them to practice in person. They're one of the few schools that's going to allow that to happen, which I think is going to, help out in the long run, whether they go deep or not. Another thing that was interesting is the NCAA recently approved something interesting. They're going to allow an athlete to have an extra year of eligibility if 50% of their season was affected by COVID-19. So what that means is that if everything plays out the way it's going to be, and let's say if it's a shortened season, a lot of these players might be playing again next season, so that's something that they can look forward to, even though they've had this delay, so to speak, with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I thought that was really interesting and classy of the NCAA to be able to offer that to these athletes, because as we stated, some of these kids, graduating as far as their senior year, that might be it for them. And a lot of the other kids out there want to have another look by maybe some pro scouts, and see if they can enter a draft, go pro. All this is very instrumental to the careers of said, students out there. So I like everything I'm seeing right now, Rudy. I got to say.
Yeah, and a quick thing I wanted to ask with Jonas about the eligibility part. Jonas, as far as getting that extra year of eligibility, am I wrong for thinking that could actually, not work in their favor? Because in the NFL, you have to be 2 years into a collegiate program. In other words, you have to be, I think it's after your junior year, you can come out for the NFL and in their draft. So if they were to add that extra year of eligibility, it would delay some people in actually coming out for the NFL or even in the NBA, if it goes that far. Does that affect, am I wrong to think that that's a kind of a negative side of adding that extra year of eligibility, because that's an extra year that you either want to sit out, or that's an extra year where you may get injured and not have that NFL career actually happen?
Well, the way I look at it, Rudy, is that it's not necessarily about, delaying your professional options another year. It's more or less just saying, if you want to come back for another year, we'll give you that fifth year option. It's kind of like almost like the red shirt kind of works. How you can still be a red shirt sophomore and go pro because you are, your graduating class is 2 years removed, even though you're technically, you're actually a junior, but because of your red shirt, you're a sophomore or something, and working how that all kind of balances out. And so football is handling its own thing at the Division I level, and let's be honest, those are the guys that we're really talking about for the NFL draft. Division II, Division III that are already looking to be canceled. I think I read the other day they have been canceled for the football season. Those guys are are long shots to make it, but their eligibility is not being deferred. They're just receiving another year of college football if they want to come back for that, because like you said, a lot of these guys aren't going to go on, aren't going to go on and do this. And volleyball, a lot of these girls aren't. What are the professional options for volleyball? Next to nil, unless you're going to go play in the Olympics somewhere, or beach
Team
volleyball and stuff
USA.
like that. So this is camaraderie. This is your opportunity for your scholarship, and come back for maybe grad school if you're on a scholarship opportunity and stuff. You might have that chance. And they're saying we recognize, COVID-19 kind of robbed you of an opportunity to go for the national championship. We're gonna allow you to stay in condition, in shape, and kind of what Trinity's hopes are is to have a spring season, a shortened season, because we've already talked before about, if you move football to the spring, how does that impact the entire training schedule for football? Well, volleyball understands too that these women will need the summer off, to do whatever it is they need to do in terms of taking care of classes, work, whatever, and then condition and come back and be ready for next fall. So that's the way I kind of look at it, is you just have the opportunity to play another year. Now, when you talk about impact, what it does impact is the kids coming out of high school this year and next year, because if those seniors and those juniors have an extra year of eligibility, then it's going to impact them in terms of their opportunities to crack that roster and maybe crack that starting rotation and crack that starting lineup and stuff like that, and have their opportunities. That's where I see the real loss. It's not about those who are towards the end of their college career. It's actually impacting those that are just getting there started negatively.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to look at it. There's different ways to look at it. I kind of agree with you. I mean, that whole extra year of eligibility, kind of it's on the fence for me, man. Just because I'm not exactly sure, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's always a good thing because you get that extra year. It's kind of like you said, a redshirt type thing. But the bad thing is that if you wanted to go pro early, you really can't, because technically, this season didn't happen. So I
But
do see
I
it
don't.
that way too.
Is that what they're saying? Is they're saying that the season technically didn't happen? Because as far as I know, it's just your years after school, kind of like a whole Maurice Claret kind of thing when he was trying to come out after his freshman year back in 2003 at Ohio State, and he wanted to go pro because LeBron, right up the road went pro. Yes, I'm using my Ohio roots here.
I remember that. I do
But
remember.
it was a national discussion. It really was. But the whole thing was he just had to wait. You can go sit around your house until you're by age eligible, which just means that those that you went to high school with and your graduating class from high school just has to be 2 years removed from high school.
Yeah, you're right. And I forgot about the whole Maurice Claret thing. Boy, was that guy a bust. But nonetheless,
Right.
speaking of bust, Spurs bust? No, I don't think so. I think they've actually surprised a lot of people so far in the bubble. The Spurs did win today against Utah. They are at 3-2. I still
Huge
believe they
win.
are in 11th, right?
I have
They
not
are.
seen the standings as we were getting ready for the
I,
show.
I think it is over there 11th. One of the questions that we was asked was, is the approach we're seeing working? And that approach is, I'm assuming, is a youth movement, because we've seen Keldon, we've seen DeJounte, we've seen Lonnie. Derek is Derek is Derek, man. Derek is really playing good. Jakob's having some spurts of him. Drew Eubanks is actually making a push here at the very end in the last couple of games here. I think the youth movement is in full effect, with the exception of Luka Simonik, which again, people still knock Luka on a lot of stuff. But we've said many times, don't be hard on Luka. Luka's still young. He's really, really young. He's learning the system. It's going to take him a little while. So, looking at the notes, it is 10th. The Spurs are in 10th right now. So we'll see how by the end of the night, if that's where they do stay. But guys, as far as the youth movement, is it working for you? I mean, I want to leave Jonas last on that one, because I think, if I remember on Twitter, Jonas was kicking me in the butt recently for saying certain things. But Joe, as far as the Spurs are going, How do you like this, man? Are you liking what you've seen? Is there something more you want to see?
Well, through 5 games right now, the Spurs are 3-2, which is kind of surprising, you know. And right now, as it stands, they're 10th in the Western Conference, 2 games back of the Blazers, and 3 games behind the Grizzlies. They're about a .5 or half a game ahead of the Suns, which are undefeated, by the way. Surprising as that is. But getting back to the San Antonio Spurs and the youth movement, I think the youth movement has been welcome with open arms because you get to see more of what is exciting out there to Spurs fans, and that's Keldon Big Body Johnson. You get to see Quindary Weatherspoon. We've seen the advent of Derek White and him coming out, and just taking all these charges all of a sudden. I believe he was third as of today's game in the NBA of taking charges. I believe he's taken 28 charges so far in the season, which is third best in the NBA, and he's making a strong case for himself as Defensive Player of the Year. He could be in that contention, which is, he's going to be in great company with some of the elite defenders in the NBA, which is showing you how good, Derek White is. DeJounte Murray, you have Lonnie Walker, even, Jonas Clark's boy, Yaka Portal there.
I thought it was Bryn Forbes.
Oh, well, Bryn Forbes has been kind of hurt recently.
I love all the misfits on the Spurs. Thank you very much.
They've been sitting Bryn Forbes, load management. But I think they're doing that strategically because they're wanting to see what they have in these younger players. We have a lot of two-way contracts that are going to be coming up. So they're trying to see what these kids really have. Are they worth keeping on, throwing a contract out at them? We have one of the players that we haven't really seen a lot of right now is Shazami Metu. We've seen Drew Eubanks balling out there, which is making me take back some of the things I said about him earlier in the year. He's looking, really good out there. But Shemezi, we haven't really seen a lot of him, which is kind of perplexing. We saw some, Marco get some minutes today, which is never really a good thing. Yes, you want to see him out there. He's one of your veterans. But you'd rather see some of the younger players get those minutes. But I got to say, I think the experiment is working. Mixing these younger players with the veterans has been paying off so far in the bubble. We like what we're seeing. We're seeing these young bucks out there getting some much-needed experience. And that means that they're just going to be that much more ready come next season. So the trend continues, regardless of what happens, if they make the playoffs or not. Getting the young bucks this much-needed experience right now is going to pay off big time for the Spurs next season.
Nice. Orlando, what do you feel? You weren't, you were a lot smarter than me because I took them for 2 and 6 in the bubble, and they've already surpassed the win total that I got. But what do you like so far from seeing the Spurs?
Say, man, I've liked the energy. I like the fight they've been putting up. Not going down easily. They've been like real scrappy. Fighting for the ball. But, the youth movement, Derek White has been phenomenal. Some of the minutes that Lonnie Walker is getting. Pirtle, a couple weeks ago, was one of the guys that I said I was going to be watching out for in this bubble, and he's been pretty damn good so far. I know he wasn't happy with the minutes and what he was getting prior to the bubble with the play before this whole thing started, and so far he's been pretty good. From what we've seen, I know he had double-digit points today, so I've been pretty thrilled. I do want to see, a little bit of the minutes that Quindary, like Weatherspoon is getting. Some of those guys, like they're making not the most out of what they're doing, but definitely not going unnoticed out there on the court. And same thing with Keldon Johnson. I don't he didn't have a big game today, but it's going to come sooner or later for Keldon Johnson. Just that athleticism they have, and not only that, like when you see these younger players playing as hard as they are right now, it just pushes the older vets like Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan to step up their game because they know that they can't let those younger players down either, regardless of the outcome. So I think that's one thing that I've enjoyed the most, regardless of win or lose in these Spurs games.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little antsy here because I want to hear from Jonas because I just have a feeling he's gonna bash all of our takes. Hope I'm wrong, but I have a feeling he might. So Jonas, no Bryn Forbes. I know you've already probably went through 3 or 4 towels because of crying on that. But the Spurs have looked pretty good, even in the youth movement. But I have a feeling you want more of the youth movement. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, to the point where you guys are saying you're happy to see the youth out there, I'm still saying what youth? You know,
College cats.
Dejounte's minutes are a continuation rather. It's not a surprise to see him still out there getting 25 to 30 minutes. Now the 30 minutes, sure, but his average for the season was 20. I think it was like 22 or 23. So he's definitely had closer to 25, closer to 30 before, on numerous occasions. And so when I think of the youth movement, guys, yes, Derek and DeJounte and Bryn even are the veterans of the youth movement. They're not veterans on this team, but they're veterans of the youth movement for the Spurs. But if you want to talk about real youth, then I want to see even more of Keldon, and we're getting enough of Keldon at this point right now. So 24 minutes, sure, but I want to see him featured more. I want to see the ball out of DeMar's hands. I want to see the ball out of Rudy's hands. Bring Quinn out there for more than just 8 to 12 minutes per game. He needs to be getting some more run. And I don't want to talk bad about the birthday boy DeMar DeRozan, but and really I don't have a whole lot bad to say about him except for we've seen how he fits, and we now know he fits. That was a question coming into Orlando, is when you add Keldon to the mix with Lonnie, with DeJounte, with Derek, and you get this influx of youth. Will it rejuvenate DeMar, or will he be discouraged? And I think he got rejuvenated, and now he feels, it's you kind of see the fun DeMar like you got to see in Toronto if you watch many games back when he was there, and him and Kyle Lowry were having fun pre-game, post-game, in-game, everything like that, because it was a winning environment, but they were flowing really well out on the court. And so I think that's now we've seen that, and Rudy is the consummate professional, and he's really stepped up and shown that. You're very welcome. He's already shown that he can do what's necessary, on the court. So let's take the ball back out of their hands and let's start running a lot more of the four, almost like a 4-guard kind of lineup, where you have Lonnie, KJ, DeJounte, and Derek out there together. I want to see all 4 of those guys. Talk about wild Mustangs just running in an open field. That's what that's going to look like. It's going to look gritty. It's going to look, fast. They're going to fight for everything. You might get some fouls and you might give up some fast breaks, but they're going to run right alongside them. Luka Šimanić, by this point, I still just need. We went into this whole thing, and he was my guy that I wanted to see. I'm like, I want to see how he starts to measure up. I know he's going to get eaten alive, but I want to see where he's at, because I saw where he was at in the scrimmage, but everybody was kind of cold in the scrimmage. And I watched him develop in Austin, where as the season went on, he became more comfortable. So I want to see him become more comfortable in the bubble and see that he's taking notes on the bench right now, and that he's doing his homework, and watch some of those things, watch him, put some of those things to use, and let me know that no matter what happens this year, I think that we can, as Spurs Nation, agree that we're not we don't really have a chance at the Lakers or the Clippers if we get them in the first round, or, the chances of moving on through the playoffs at all and going to the finals is pretty much not going to happen. So I want to look at next year, where we have this whole youth movement, and say, okay, can we do this next year? I'm already preparing for December, / January 2021, and whenever the next season resumes, and saying, let's prepare for that moment. Let's go then. We'll have Trey Lyles back. If you want to trade LaMarcus, let's trade LaMarcus, because we already know we can do things. But the only thing out of our control really is whether or not DeMar re-signs. And if he stays, we know he fits. If he goes, we know we've got his replacement already out there too. So let's run this thing. Let's get the real youth movement going. Quindary 20 minutes, Luka 15 minutes. Go ahead and give Drew up to 20. I know Jakob's still earning his time, but there's no reason we can't go big at times too, guys.
True that. So like I said, Jonas would not agree with us because he has not seen enough of the youth. I've seen a lot of the youth. I don't need to see really, I don't need to see 30 minutes a night, 35 minutes a night or anything like that. I like what I'm seeing from the youth in the Spurs. Yeah, you're right. Chimezi Metu definitely hasn't been seen. Lucas Monica hasn't been seen, but
At
more
that
so
point, I think
ever.
Chimezi's gone. By the way, guys, we can dump his
Yeah.
contract 1.5, and guess who that pays for? Drew Eubanks.
Ooh, okay, I would rather pay Drew Eubanks. I thought you were going to say Bryn Forbes. So I would just go rather buy, $1.5 million in trash cans and donate them to the Houston Astros. This is the Friday Night Takeover. Rudy Campos Jr., Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark. We will be right back. The Friday Night Takeover. Rudy Campos Jr., Orlando Torres, Joe Garcia, Jonas Clark, from 6 to 8 p.m. on Dennis Dramatic Essay, Facebook and YouTube. Just search for Friday Night Takeover. We just got out of the bubble from going into the bubble, talking about Spurs. I'm going to say my prediction is done with everybody else's predictions. Still relatively good. So that was, Spurs. I was going to go ahead and say I'm going to. Rapid look at more just rapid trips. Biggest thing is obviously the MLB with the positive test for the Marlins, positive for the Cardinals, which knowing that the Cardinals are testing positive, it's affecting the Field of Dreams game. That's something that I was really looking forward to. Hell, I feel like Costner of a great movie. We're going to get our first game there at the Field of Dreams. Cardinals in the field this year. Now that's canceled that. And how much cancel certain games. Move on, Joe. Being that you follow with that, how do you feel about that? You feel the
But Joe, how do you feel about the Field of Dreams game being canceled and the MLB decided not to go to a bubble, decided to continue to travel. They didn't try to do regional bubbles or anything like that. And I know Rudy, like he was saying, because I kind of pick up there, he's really bummed out that the Field of Dreams game is out. This was something we were all kind of looking forward to. It was a big fan thing. It was great for baseball as a PR. So what do you think about that, Joe?
COVID-19 cases come to light. That's kind of alarming because it brings up another question. If the NFL is next to go live, with the NFL, in a sense, be another, be one of these other teams or leagues, should I say, that we see a rise in COVID-19 cases and games being, brought to an end or canceled, or we've even seen, players opting not to even play a whole, not even to play the season. So all these things are alarming. Yeah, it's disappointing that the Cardinals had to opt out. The league had to opt out of the Field of Dreams game, but I can see why they're doing that to try to protect everybody. But you'd still like to see something else take its place. You can never get enough professional sports, especially with what's going on in the world today. It's kind of an outlet. It's an escape from what's happening all around us, and sports is needed. It's part of our entertainment. It makes us feel good when we watch it. So it's kind of that sense of getting back to normalcy. And I, for one, would like to see something else in its place. And if they can have the Field of Dreams game, maybe you can play something else. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean the Field of Dream games. That's something that I was really looking forward to, man. But being that COVID has taken that away, I guess we'll just have to wait till next season to see exactly what's going to happen with it. Uh, like I was saying, before we or after we came back from commercial, as far as the Field of Dream games go, that movie was huge for baseball fans, and knowing that we were going to get an actual game there, that to me that was like, that was uplifting. That was a great move by MLB. So definitely was looking forward to that game as well. As far as a couple other rapid road trip things, I had the U.S. Open. Rafael Nadal said that he's not playing the U.S. Open, but yet on the other side, Tiger Woods is playing the PGA Championships. It kind of amazes me how when you're talking about tennis and the U.S. Open, I completely get it. If you don't want to play, you don't want to play for reasons because of the pandemic and COVID and stuff like that. I do completely get that.
Or another
But
reason
tennis,
too, Rudy, that a lot of these players are opting out is because they have wives that are pregnant.
that's true. I didn't even think about that part when it
Hmm.
came to him. I just think as far as tennis goes, and even golf to a certain extent, as far as tennis goes, I mean, the social distance during a game is actually really good if you think
Yeah.
about it. There's really no one around you. It's just you on one half of the court, the other guy on the other half of the court. You're not really next to each other. You're not really next to anybody. But that kind of surprised me to hear that Nadal was actually going to sit that out. The U.S. Open, it kind of just one of those things where I'm like, well, I get why you want to sit out. I really do. I mean, you don't have to play if you don't want to, but you're not really near anybody. So kind of surprising in that sense. But we are seeing Tiger Woods play the PGA Championships as well. NFL and the Rapid Road Trip. Orlando, do you got anything for the Rapid Road Trip you want to add in there?
Just I guess whatever's going on with the MLB side, but looking at the NFL, get closer. Still no word of a bubble or just how they're handling that situation. I guess especially to counter all the players that are opting out. I think with the NFL seeing some of the players in or out, it should be a little alarming to them, and put in an announcement and see how they go ahead and deal with that to make them feel safer. Coming back to work.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I mean, yeah, definitely. Just hoping the NFL can get going. I really hope they can get going. So, hopefully, no more sports gets canceled. We get everything definitely going in the right direction here. I mean, the NBA has done a very, really good job, very fantastic job with everything. No positive COVID tests in the last few days, I think, which is fantastic, man. It shows that the bubble's working. I have heard nothing from NHL either. Seems like they're doing a very good job. So hopefully all of these sports will continue to get better. I know the chocolate stuff happened, but as far as I know, and in defense of the Chanclas, I didn't hear of any positive tests coming out from that either. So that was actually a good thing, I guess, as far as moving forward with sports. So,
Or maybe not for the
uh,
players. There was no positives, but I mean, I'd be interested to see those tracing numbers for the community passing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I that's what I'm kind of asking. That's what I'm kind of wondering too. Players, yes, and I think we would have maybe heard something From as far as like the fans go, if somebody had gotten it from the fans part, I think we would have heard something because you would have had to notify people who were at the game, if I'm not mistaken.
But if they don't know that they're symptomatic, or if you're asymptomatic, you can still have it. But they went to the if you picked it up from the game is where you go through and do that tracing. Those numbers will still come out because the game's just wrapped on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Okay,
Was the
okay.
last one in attendance, and they were $2 games and dollar games all the way up through, and you saw the numbers. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw my kind of outrage at it. And so I don't know that we can kind of say that it didn't, but you can definitely see why nobody else has fans. No other, like, that's the big thing. Nobody
Yeah.
else is trying fans, and the TCL tried it.
Oh,
But it's interesting
Yeah.
to see everybody opting out, these professional athletes opting out yet again. We are, like NFL, we just had a whole bunch of guys opt out. MLB, you've seen a couple, there have been names starting to pop up of guys just saying, no, I'm not coming back. I'm going to go ahead and leave my team and, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
we already knew guys who opted out of the NBA before the bubble took place because they had to make their decision. But now we've got college athletes, who are being told, they have to be on campus, they have to be there, they have to be there. Apparently, Colorado lying about their tests and stuff like that. And why are we trying to force, college into action? And even so, guys, why are we trying to force high school into action? I know we've talked about that before, but it's so weird to see all these professionals opting out, even in tennis.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I do see it, and the only thing, and this is not even an excuse as to why to start the seasons or even get them going, but the only thing I can think of is, as a professional, you're getting paid regardless. In some cases, other cases, you're not getting paid, but you are a professional. You have that salary. You've got that money saved away. A lot of these amateurs, they just want to get on the field because they're trying to get to that next level. So I do understand the safety part. I do understand why they're trying to get out there. But again, it's all about safety, and that's what we here at the Friday Night Takeover have been preaching throughout this whole thing is safety. Especially for the kids. Locally, even on the campuses as well. So, you know, we're gonna transition real quick into very very last segment here. We've got a little bit of news for the Friday Night Takeover. Myself, if you don't know who I am, which if you don't know by now, then you haven't been listening. But Rudy Campos here is my name. This is actually going to be my last show here on the Friday Night Takeover. I am going. I'm going to not necessarily do another show or nothing like that. It has nothing to do with the show or anything. I've got some plans on Friday night that have come up. So I just want to say that I've enjoyed these weeks with you guys. It's been fun, lots of laughs. I know I've given Jonas a hard time a lot of times, but it's all out of love that we do it because we do it on Twitter and in person and everything like that. So
Rudy, you're like the
just
AAF. You made it through week 7.
exactly, I am the AAF of the Friday Night Takeover. I could be the XFL too, I guess. I mean, either way, I do wish
You
you
would have had to
guys
leave last
the
last
best
week.
of luck. I do wish the guys the best of luck. Great to finally meet Orlando, work with him. I've known Jonas for a while, worked with him as well. Joe, I've known Joe for years, worked with him too. So do me a favor and show these guys a lot of love. They work really, really hard, and I will definitely miss doing this on Friday night. So appreciate you guys for putting up with me for a little while here.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to have you on, Rudy. Rudy's a friend of mine, and it's fun working with Rudy. Always a professional, and we wish him the best and what he's going to be doing on Friday nights from now on. So, also that, and we also look forward to your new show that'll be coming out here over the airwaves pretty soon, the Sports Dime. So, make sure you tune into that. It's going to be coming up, I believe, August 16th, right, Rudy?
Yeah, August 16th at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 to 11. So I'm being a morning bird on Sundays, which is it's new for me.
There you go. Are you going to be accepting call-ins, Rudy, so I can call into the show?
Yeah, we will be taking call-ins. I'll give y'all that number. But again, Friday Night Takeover, Rudy Campos, the Orlando Toros, Garcia, signing off. Rudy Campos signing off for the very last time here on Friday Night Takeover.
Rudy, you there?
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, it's been a pleasure working with you, my friend. Wish you the best in what you're doing next, and I'm gonna look forward to, listening to your new show, and you all are gonna be streaming it too, right?
Yeah, we should be streaming it Twitter, Facebook,